that's what's left over. But let me show you what we did. So you see these materials here. We always send a little bit of extra materials out to our job sites just so if we run into something, we don't end up having to chase and go back to the supply yard and get it. It's all sitting here right on site. This is a pretty big job, and I want to show you guys all the things that went into it, starting at the apron and the entrance of this driveway, because this is the most critical part of a driveway. A lot of times it gets ignored, and that's where the quality and the issues happen down the road. So it does cost a little bit more to do it like this, but I guarantee you it ends up paying for itself over the lifetime of a home. This driveway should last the whole lifetime of these people living here, at least 30 years before we have any issues or any settling or anything that needs to be addressed. Let me show you what we did. So you can see right here, we added some nice walls around the flower beds in here, just a nice welcoming entrance. We did that around all the flower beds, and I'll get to that in just a second. But right here, this is our apron. This is our entrance to the driveway. And it's actually concrete in this spot all the way back to somewhere right in here. And the reason we do that kind of concrete 10 feet back from the roadway is because when a vehicle kind of comes off and drives right on here, the shocks may kind of bump up and down as you kind of drive onto the driveway. Well, what that's doing is that's taking that entire load of the front of the vehicle. So there's my truck right there. If that truck was to drive up on here, the entire weight of the front of the truck as it bumps up on here ends up impacting right here at the entrance of the driveway. So a lot of times on paver driveways, you see two little nice ruts right where every single UPS truck and every single FedEx truck as they drive in the driveway impact and make a nice mark. So this has the pavers, then we got a little bit of screed sand, and then we've got 6 inches of concrete, then we've got 6 inches of 57, and then underneath of that we have fabric laid out. So really impact resistant. In the last video, in part 1, we talked about how we do our driveway construction with the open grade, with our geogrid and fabric. So you can kind of see, we always make sure that our gravel goes over a little bit from the end of the driveway. And what that does is if a vehicle ever drives off and back on the driveway, this edge doesn't curl. It doesn't end up having an impact on it. If you stop your edge, like right here, what ends up happening is if a vehicle rides off, this edge is no longer supporting the paver. So we always make sure that we've got a nice extended edge there so that the cars driving off don't make an impact to the driveway. So like I mentioned, in our open grade style is this has fabric. It's got our 57s, then it's got 1 inch of number 8s, which is a nice fine smaller gravel. You can kind of see some of these smaller gravels in here. In between the 57s and number 8s, we've got our geogrid, which is our woven fabric, and that's what keeps the driveway from having any sort of rutting or issues. So underneath here, there's a nylon geogrid, and that runs from here all the way to over in this side. And in that space, it's like squares. It's like a hash mark all through here. What happens is when those two tires are driving along right here along this driveway, the load, instead of being in just 2 points, is load here, but because that geogrid is running the entire length of this paver patio, it spreads the entire load between the distance of the 2 points and allows that weight to get spread out so it's not just in one place, it's actually over the entire driveway. So you can see we've got a nice long driveway here. The guys are just cleaning up. We're getting ready to do some nice landscaping out here as well, just to make the front of this gorgeous home even more gorgeous. So paver driveway coming in. We're putting in a water feature, so you can see this sphere right here. It's gonna have some lights on it. It's gonna have a really cool effect at night. You'll come down this nice paver driveway. You'll see this sphere bubbling up. We're actually gonna grab a maple that's in the woods here, and we're actually gonna transplant that maple over into this spot and then do some boulders. Really nice accent right in this corner. As you can see here, we've got our sidewalk actually running all the way through here. And as I mentioned in part 1, we ended up doing a little bit of an interesting change on this area right here. Because this right here is square to the road, the house is not square to the road, and these pavers are square to the house. We needed to shift it just a tiny bit, not much, but if you look in there, you'll see that we widened the gaps just a little bit on this side, and we kept them really tight on the other side. And then we brought that walkway all the way through here, all the way to the front. And that just kind of opens up, and you see how the guys did kind of like a layered effect right here with the Villaggio. This brings you right to the front and widens up ever so subtly. So again, you can see this nice wall right here, and they had a stacked slate material on the edge of their flower beds, and it really just was getting frustrating for them because they kept on having to restack it, having to take it apart and adjust it every single spring. They really were kind of tired with that kind of look, and so we ended up putting this wall in all around all their flower beds, all up in there as well, and it really has a nice clean, crisp look. They'll be able to run their mower right up to it. They'll be able to trim right against it. It's really going to give the yard a really cool effect. So beyond that, I mean, as if this wasn't much, we also did a lot of draining and lighting. So you can see these drains here. See more drains back over there. So we have a lot of drains run through here because there was a lot of water. Here's that geogrid. Squirrel. There's that geogrid we were talking about. But there was a lot of water that was pooling in this area, partially also from this condensation lines that are right here. So we got all that drainage out, got it all shoved up into the woods here. It's out of the way, it's all going away. So it's not gonna be just rushing across our driveway. And then while we're doing the pavers, we core drilled and added lights throughout the whole space. So this entire corner here won't be the dark area anymore. It'll be nice and lit up. And of course the whole front of the house will be nice and lit up as well. And then I can also show you one other thing we did. So see, this kind of comes to the backyard here. This was exposed aggregate that wasn't very well finished. It was old and falling apart. So we're gonna put some river rock in here, and we took out all of that and put in another little wall section right here. And then we did all these new pavers in here just to finish out this area because there was some sections in here that weren't filled in. So we did all of our open grade style all through here, and then back out. This is a really fun project. Not only are our clients fun to work for, but a project like this really makes a huge impact on the way that this home looks and feels, and really makes a big difference. And that's really what we're all about. We want to make sure that people can live in their homes, they can be proud of them. We really want to bring people's curb appeal up. We also want them to be able to enjoy their backyards and enjoy living outdoors. And this one definitely checked those boxes. Can't wait to show you guys the finished photos of this one. Thanks for following along.